Good evening, friends, enemies, and unacquainted strangers. I welcome you to the Disquiet Library. I am the curator, and these listless halls has many stories and artworks. This evening, I have a reading and a painting from the library collections, but before I get on with that, I have a few announcements. We have selected a library assistant. It turns out that Chester Teefs, the author of the oh-so-helpful book our librarian friend recommended to us a few months back, lives near one of the entrances to the library. He was interested with working with the library's mimic population and reached out to me to see if he could assist. I was all too happy to take up his offer, as I regrettably have made little headway with the rowdy books in our collections. So if you see a large trunk with a top hat around, do not be alarmed. However, I must say that although our new assistant is merely an assistant librarian, the powers and abilities conferred by this position are still potent, and the usual safety measures for dealing with librarians should be followed. For those who have forgotten or who are uninformed, Chester and I have put together some safety protocol and interaction guidelines. These should be posted on our new community announcements corkboards near the entrances. Our second announcement for the evening is that community mapping efforts mentioned last week have progressed well. We now have established that one can get to the children's fiction section most of the time by tucking a red crayon behind one's left ear. If you would like to contribute to the ongoing mapping efforts, please feel free to use the crayons and paper we provide near the donation bins. Completed mapping efforts can be turned in at the checkout counter, or if you happen to catch me winding my way through the stacks. Please do not turn maps into Chester, as this could have dangerous concerns for the personal and spatial stability of existing routes. Thank you. With all that accounted for, let us turn to this evening's artwork. It is another artwork and story provided by my archivist contact in an adjoining galaxy, who provided the story of our nameless droid friend from a few months ago. You do not need to have viewed that artwork or story to understand this evening's entertainment. For those listening to the audio recordings, a link to view the accompanying artwork has been included in the description box or card wherever you found the recordings. The story has some description of gore and death, but the artwork should have no objectionable flavors. So if you find these distasteful, please feel free to peruse the other artworks and works the library has to offer. With that, let's begin. Galactic Standard Year 3455, Spring Week 5, Day 2, Caffel Sector. My platoon and I have received orders to carry supplies to the Kargaroth base. Reports indicate heavy pirate activity in the area, and the nearest warp point is in the next system, so we've been supplied with one of the battle carriers rather than a cargo hauler as would normally be flown on such a route. Seems a bit overkill for a few pirates, but apparently this transport has some important supplies that can't be risked. I'm still finding it weird working with the soldiers, though. They don't really have much of a personality. Must be they're stuck training or something. It's a bit unnerving when the closest they get to amicability is when they're polishing their weapons together or in the mess hall. I'll try to get to know them once we get underway, though. Galactic Standard Year 3455, Spring, Week 5, Day 5, Warp Space. We're getting close to our destination now. I guess I was too harsh on the soldiers in my last entry. I've shared evenings with them, where we each played a few rounds of Setchnet, as one had picked up a deck of cards on one of his away trips. They're damn-handed at it and truly wiped the floor with me. The one time I won, they blamed it on me using those damn envoy powers to read our fucking minds. But I just got lucky with my draws. They're still pretty formal and war-focused, but I suppose it's to be expected from people who were raised both the growth accelerant and trained for war since they were infants. Today, they've invited me down to the training range. I'm supposed to show them some moves so they can get adjusted to fighting alongside a plasma sword, and some of the basic abilities they can expect when I channel the will. TS-3654 wanted to see how I held up in comparison to their plasma launchers, so he went a bit more fierce in demonstrations than we had agreed, and once they realized that plasma swords can discharge absorbed energy, they had me face off against them in target practice. They had a lot of fun and seemed quite impressed at the end of it. Galactic Standard Year 3455, Spring, Week 5, Day 5, Unknown. Everyone is dead, or soon to be. We fell into a trap. Somehow the Confederacy ripped us out of our warp space. I thought it would be impossible. Not only that, but in doing so, they ripped the battle carrier in half. One moment everything's fine, then the next the ship's ripped apart and we are taking fire. They looked to be a medium fleet of battleship and some carriers, but while we were scrambling to ready the particle beams and return fire, troop transports had already landed bots on the hull. I suited up in an EVA suit and took a battalion of soldiers to fight through the landing bots and go rescue the standard crew in the fore section of the ship. No matter how many bots we shot, they just kept flowing in, like swarms of ants and locusts, burning away any living beings in their way. Endless waves of machines we fought through, cutting them down, blasting holes through them. Even the blast from my plasma saber could only clear momentary breaks. I tried to clear my mind and just let the will flow through me, but even the endurance and strength the will provided could do little more than hold the line against the hordes of metal and lancing red plasma bolts. I felt the drone and vibration of particle beams shudder off as the power to the ship disappeared. We had made it to a viewport, so the only light was the dull glow from outside and the pressing stillness. A rumble below deck confirmed they had destroyed the power station and that the bots stopped advancing. They all stared at us with their pointed heads and plasma launchers, but they were paused, waiting. The only thing we could hear was our breathing, deep and slow, conserving our suit supplies. It was unnerving to see the android simply stop and turn around and start retreating in formation, forming ribbons and rivulets of metal liquid that flowed out over the ship and back into the troop carriers. As the troop transports receded, a single shuttle departed the Confederacy fleet and approached the main hangar bay. Our view was blocked at its approach, and one of my soldiers remarked on the bots leaving, "Why they just stop? They shouldn't have stopped." "We're dead. It's already not worth the effort. Without the power, our life support is out and we can't send for help," another soldier, T-3650, remarked. "Well, we could get back to the life pods. They should have separate systems we could use. We have to be careful and take it slow, though. Our EVAs are only about half full." My body started to panic and tried to breathe heavily as I processed the news, but I steadied my breathing, forcing long, slow breaths. Panic would only use our air faster. As we slowly made our way through the empty halls, the massacre became evident. I had 5 soldiers remaining, and it seemed like we may have been the only survivors. But the dark passageway, only lit by our lamps attached to our helmets, and the dull blue glow of my plasma sword, sights got more horrific as we progressed. Amidst the piles of eviscerated bots and soldiers shot down in their squads by the bots, we started to find unnatural bodies, soldiers missing limbs rather than shot, or in some cases a few bodies were violently pulled into an air duct through something had grasped them and tried to drag them away with no regard for their bone structure or armor. Shiny red blood glistened on their white beetle armor, which caught our lamps and added to the grisly scenes. "Commander, can I see your plasma sword for a second?" one of my soldiers had asked. I gave it to him, and he held the thin blade up to a curious hole bored into one of the corpses. It wasn't the traditional round bolt hole, but rather the thin slit reflected the geometry of my sword blade. "I don't think a simple bot could have done that. Done a lot of these," he said. "Also," he grabbed the back of the armor and heaved the body out of an indentation in the wall. The helmet was embedded in the wall, and it came free of its occupant, revealing the face of a man who had called me a cheater at cards only this morning. He had been in our battalion with us. "I only read 3 of you. I think we lost TS-3650 as well," I observed. "Stick together, men. We don't know what we've got, and the other 2, and I don't want to lose any more of you." The darkness pressed in around us even more as we made our way along the last few turns towards the escape pods. The trooper behind me started coughing. We paused to check in on him. His oxygen was getting low, and his suit was starting to backfill with nitrogen. I only noticed the flash of movement and the slamming of the air duct just too late. TS-4567 had gotten grabbed by something from behind and had been rapidly dragged into the vents. His body was folded and floppy as his pulverized bones behaved much more like a bag of gravel than when disrupted. The last 3 of us remaining made it to the escape pods in a rush. I had started manually disengaging them and launching before we piled into the last one. As we launched, I caught a glimmer of 4 yellow reflected eyes that caught my lamp from the dark. As I pulled the hatch closed, we have life support now, but with the cruiser disabled and unable to broadcast our signals, there is little hope. I write this down to document so that if our bodies are found, the Republic can at least be warned. The remaining pages of this journal were blank, and an angular charred slit carved into the edge of the journal and through the chest of the burnt figure that was partially melded with the wall of the escape pod, as though frozen in a moment, falling into a pool. As the escape pod slowly turned in space, the 2 envoys saw the silhouette of a Confederate cruiser, smooth armor shells interspaced with minimalistic stripped-down utilitarian beams and girders and greebles. They saw a swirling green particle beam tear through their shuttle. They could hear the screams of their soldiers in the adjoining cabin before the escape pod's emergency systems kicked in and closed the hatch. A dark, Y-shaped silhouette of a shuttle broke away from the cruiser. The pod's communicator crackled to life with a robotic, severe voice. "This is General Horror. I bring the last words of your compatriot. Run. Run as fast as you can." Do you have anything that you would like to tell those who come looking for your bodies? That concludes our story for the evening. The library is currently undergoing some restructuring, so you'll be unable to find the usual resources with the donation bins. I will simply say thank you, shadowy wanderers of the night, and I hope that you have a wonderful evening.